Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I'm Noah. And until last year, my life looked almost predictable. Steady job, quiet routines, a wife who used to smile at me like I was her favorite part of the day. Somewhere along the way, that changed, and I didn't notice it until it was already too late. Funny how people don't turn cold all at once. They cool down slowly, like a cup of coffee left untouched on the counter. Still warm for a moment, then lukewarm, then forgotten. Alara, my wife, was never cruel in the traditional sense. She didn't yell, didn't hit, didn't throw things. Her version of cruelty was quieter. It was the kind that sneaks up on you. Indifference disguised as busy schedules, silence masquerading as peace, and a growing distance explained away by exhaustion. But the moment everything snapped for me was the day she forgot my birthday. I say forgot because forgetting requires there to be a chance you would have remembered. Alara knew the date. She'd always known. She even used to tease me that I shared a birthday with her childhood dog. And yet that morning came and went without a single word. No text, no call, nothing. I woke up early, as usual, expecting at least a happy birthday, whispered across the pillow or a lazy kiss on my shoulder like she used to do years back. Instead, she brushed past me in the hallway, her eyes glued to her phone. "Morning," I said. "Yeah," she replied, barely glancing up. "I'm running late." She left without breakfast, without checking if I needed anything, without even the courtesy of eye contact. I stood in the kitchen with my mug halfway to my mouth, realizing the silence wasn't accidental. It was intentional. Later that afternoon, my friend Mason called. "Hey man, happy birthday. You doing anything tonight?" I hesitated. "Not sure yet. You and Alara got plans?" I almost laughed. "Doesn't look like it." There was a pause, the kind where someone realizes they've touched the edge of something sharp. "Noah, you good?" "Yeah." I lied. "I'm fine." When Alara came home that evening, her mood was bright, almost annoyingly cheerful. "You won't believe the day I had," she said, tossing her bag on the counter. "I'm starving. Do we have anything to eat?" I waited. I waited for the moment she'd remember. The moment she'd look at me and say, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. I forgot happy birthday." But that moment never came. Instead, she microwaved leftovers and scrolled through her phone while eating. I sat across from her, watching the glow of the screen light up her face, and something inside me clicked. A small, quiet, definitive click. It wasn't anger. It wasn't disappointment. It was clarity, the kind that slices cleanly through months of confusion. She knew it was my birthday. She chose to pretend it wasn't. Later that night, I stepped outside for air. The suburban street was dim, only a few porch lights glowing. I replayed the day in my head, connecting dots that had been scattered for months. Her growing distance, her lack of affection, her disinterest in anything I cared about. It wasn't carelessness, it was a decision. And I realized I needed to make one too. I didn't sleep much that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table while she snored lightly in the bedroom, and I made a list. Something I hadn't done since college. It wasn't a list of chores or goals. It was a list of things I had left that truly belonged to me. My tools, my guitar, my grandmother's ring, my truck. And then I made another list. Things I wouldn't miss. It was longer than it should have been. The next morning, I left the house before she woke. I needed space to think, so I drove to the lake near the edge of town, parking by the water where the sun was just starting to rise. My reflection on the surface looked tired, drained, like a man living someone else's life. For the first time, I asked myself a question I'd been avoiding. What if I simply didn't stay? The idea didn't scare me. In a strange way, it felt peaceful. When I drove back home later that afternoon, Alara was out. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Her cardigan was missing from the hook by the door. And for reasons I still can't fully explain, the empty house made the next part easy. I started selling everything. Not dumping, selling. Clean, calculated, deliberate. My tools went first. Then the couch. Then the TV. Then the dining set we never used because she always said she was too tired to sit at the table. By nightfall, half the house was empty, and I felt lighter than I had in years. I kept going. The furniture, the art, the books I had collected since college, gone. Every piece that carried a memory of us, everything that tied me to a life where I felt invisible, I sold. I didn't feel remorse. I felt liberation. The house, once heavy with silence, now echoed only with my own footsteps. That night, I sat on the empty living room floor with a pen and notebook. It was time to choose a new identity, a symbol of the life I was about to claim. Not just a fresh start, but a declaration that I no longer belonged to someone who didn't see me. I scribbled a list of names: Liam, Theo, Jasper, Silas, Adrian. Each name felt like a small rebellion, a subtle act of reclaiming myself. I finally settled on Silas Gray. It wasn't flashy, but it had weight. Felt like me, the man I had been hiding under years of routine, expectation, and overlooked birthdays. Silas Gray. It was a shield and a promise. The next morning, I walked into the DMV and started the paperwork. Changing my name wasn't easy. It wasn't meant to be. Every form, every signature, every delay reminded me of how thoroughly society ties identity to circumstance. But each obstacle made the act more satisfying. Each step was mine alone, untouched by Alara's indifference. By midweek, my truck had a new license plate. My email, my bank account, even my social media profiles had transformed. Silas Gray existed now. Noah was still in me somewhere, but he had finally been allowed to leave. I thought about Alara only in fleeting moments. Not because I didn't care, because I cared too much once, but because I realized that to dwell was to remain trapped in someone else's apathy. I didn't want to linger in a house where my presence was invisible. I wanted to live where I mattered, even if it meant starting completely from scratch. Then came the hardest part, letting go of the emotional residue. My friends called, some cautiously, some with curiosity. "Mason man, are you serious?" one asked when he heard about the name change. "Completely," I replied. "Everything that reminded me of being unseen, it's gone." They didn't understand fully. They never would. Not until they walked through the quiet death of a life that used to be full. But I didn't care about understanding anymore. Understanding had nothing to do with survival. Weeks later, I rented a small flat downtown. No roommates, no echoes of someone else's laughter in the walls. It smelled faintly of paint and new beginnings. I bought only what I needed: a bed, a desk, some clothes, a single lamp. Everything else I had sold, given away, or discarded. The emptiness was refreshing. And then the letters began to arrive. Small things at first, a birthday card addressed to Noah. Then a package I didn't open. Then a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Silas, is that you?" It read. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Whatever Alara had expected, apologies, confusion, regret, was irrelevant. I had changed. The version of me that she overlooked was gone. The version she forgot existed now, had its own name, its own life, its own rules. Months passed. I discovered joy in the smallest acts. Brewing coffee just the way I liked it, sitting by the window listening to rain, watching the sun rise without pretending to care whether anyone noticed. The loneliness that had once crushed me transformed into solitude. Intentional, chosen, powerful. And then one day I saw her again. Alara, walking down the street, hair in a messy bun, the same indifferent expression she had always perfected. She passed without recognition, without a word. My chest didn't tighten. My stomach didn't knot. Silas Gray didn't flinch. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not just relief, but a quiet, deep, unwavering peace. The kind that comes when you finally realize that you are enough for yourself, and that anyone who doesn't see it was never meant to matter. I still remember the moment I stopped being Noah. It wasn't in a dramatic confrontation. There were no screams, no arguments, no tears. It was in the stillness, in the act of letting go, in the small, deliberate steps of taking back everything that belonged to me. The house was empty, the bank accounts cleared, the furniture sold, the name legally mine. The life I had lost was finally unclaimed, and I was free to step into the one I had always deserved. Sometimes, at night, I think about birthdays and small celebrations. I think about the people who never remembered, the moments I gave away, the love I poured into walls that didn't echo it back. And I smile. Not because I am cruel, but because I am whole. Because I am Silas Gray. Because I finally exist for myself, and never for someone who forgot I mattered. And that is the story of the day I stopped being invisible, the day I chose a name, a life, and freedom over indifference. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't drama. It was reclamation. And I have never looked back.